All right, welcome to episode 287 of the Comic Watchers, and our guest this evening uh, is Frank Barbiere, and this was a interview that we had planned for back in August, but at the time I was camping, and then my co-host couldn't make it, so um, we had to reschedule, and then I lost track of time, and then I talked to Frank at New York Comic Con a couple weeks ago, and then. Uh, Long story short, Frank was nice enough to come on at the last minute, uh,
Hey,
talk
I
about
think
talk.
the timing couldn't be better because things are happening.
Yeah, you got author Immortal, and you have you're also doing SWAT cats. So
And Author Immortal 2, I will plug it up front. And again, number 2 is in stores next week. So it is ripe for the pickup. It feels crazy to me because we've been done with it for so long at this point that I forget that just issue 1 came out October 1st. And yeah, time is a moving, but I'm excited for people to get to more of it. Even though we had a nice big issue 1, it's I forget that people have not read to where we have completed yet.
well, before we jump into both of those projects, let's start with a little bit about yourself, both as a comic book reader, your history there, and as a creator.
Yeah, so I am a child of the 90s mainly. I just turned 41, so I was born in 84. So I did most of my actual like media consumption and growing up in the 90s, and comics were kind of everywhere back then. Like things were really blowing up. There were a million comic book stores. There was one in my like local mall where my family would go to buy pretty much everything in New Jersey suburbs. Batman animated series hit, the X-Men show was on, and Spider-Man TV. So really, I was just like very much that target audience for all of that. And I would just like, again, comics were just around, but then like the mid 90s, like the crash started kind of happening a little bit, and a lot of the stores closed. And it wasn't until I got into high school, probably around like 98, that I started actually weekly going to the comic store. And this was like, I remember like Grant Morrison was taking over X-Men. Powers had just started coming out, which then led to Bendis getting onto Ultimate Spider-Man pretty quickly. And those were like the books that turned me back into a monthly reader. I feel like the books that I read when I was like a little kid is I read X-Men 2099. I bought every issue of as they came out, which is one of my favorite books of all time because of that. And Joe Kelly's Deadpool run back in like, was it 95 or 96? But like that, so good. I love that so much. And again, I feel like that will always be the seminal take on the character for me. But then in high school, I just really got into it and discovering Image through Bendis, and obviously, like I think I had read Spawn #1 and stuff like that, but really understanding what it is. And by the time I got to college, like again, I was just like a hardcore comic book reader. I loved it, but I never really thought about writing them because I didn't understand that stuff was submission driven. I thought you need to like work at Marvel or whatever. And after I took a screenwriting class in college, and after I always liked writing, I was like, oh wow, I feel like I understand how to actually do this now. The first writer strike, the first modern writer strike happened where like Lost Season 2 was split and things like that. And I was like, oh, well, it's like impossible to break into Hollywood because I had like written a shitty screenplay and was trying to like query people with that. But then at the same time, there was an article in Wizard about Image being submission driven, which I don't know why I didn't know that, but I did not. And I was just like, oh, wait, wow. Like I can just like make comic books and Image will publish them. Not that easy, but so I started taking money out of my student loans to fund paying artists. Terrible idea, but it's what I did. And I remember I made a pitch very early and sent it. And Eric Larson was still the publisher at Image Central. And Eric wrote me back in one day. It was just like, hey, man, this is okay, but like not really what we're looking for. And like that was my first like, oh, this might be harder than I initially thought. But yeah, I just stuck with it. And around 2011-ish, gosh, no, it was like 2008. I finished school. I have my master's in English ed. I was an English teacher, ended up taking a full-time creative writing teacher role for middle school, which really burnt me out. But I moved home. I had put out a graphic novel from Arcana called Divine Intervention, which is terrible. So, I mean, if you hunt it down, I literally wrote it in emails to the artist. It was, but it taught me how to make a comic book. Like it was,
Mm.
again, I was glad to actually do something with that. And when I got home, I realized like, oh wait, like I grew up a town over from the Dope art school. Like, why am I looking for people online? And it was so hard to find. Like, there were some forums that you could get on, like a lot of deviant art troll, a lot of really foreign, like people from other countries I was finding work from, and it was just very impersonal. But I realized like, oh wait, like I am a town over from the Joe Kubert Art School. Like there are probably kids going there who want to draw, and that's where I met Chris Mooneyham. I found him online, of course, because I wasn't gonna just physically walk in and be like, "Who wants to draw my comics?" But it's where I met Chris, and he was in a class with Gary Brown, Craig Cermak, and a few people who would go on to like end up working, and they were like one of the last classes taught by Joe, and it was great because I became friends with Chris. Like we would actually hang out. He lived like 5 minutes from where I was living, and we just started working on books, and we eventually did Five Ghosts. It miraculously got picked up at Image and came out in March of 2013. And just from there, I've just kept working and doing everything I can. I left for a little bit, not completely, but around 2016, I was really burned out and quite frankly annoyed I didn't get exclusive at Marvel or DC. So feeling a little lost with like my career and what I was going to do. And I actually ended up starting working in video games as well. So I've been doing that since 2016 as well. And it wasn't because that was so hard or like time consuming that I didn't do more comics, but like I was truly just so burnt out. I've been fortunate to do a lot of creator owned work in my career, and like it just felt like I was getting to the point where I was going to have to come up with a whole new book every 4 months, and I was like, don't want to sound so stupid or ingracious that like not a word, ungrateful that I did not like have any ideas left, but it was turning into like, well, what haven't I really done? Like, what can I figure out? And it just really burned me out. And I co-wrote some books during the last, gosh, I guess it was almost 10 years, started after I really got into games. But finally, I got the itch to do like a good proper series by myself again. And that's what turned into the author Immortal, and probably started working on it in 2020-ish almost, like maybe 2021 when I first reached out to Morgan, and we had some slow going like ships in the night stuff where it was we thought we were ready, but then one of us would get busy or Morgan would get mainly her because she did a bunch of other work. But yeah, and the whole time, like I love comics. I still read weekly comics. Like I love superhero comics. I love indie comics. I love really indie comics. I just love the medium. And again, it's something that's always been around. I love making comics, and it's one of those things where it's been very fascinating to see the ebb and flow of things over the last, gosh, I guess 40 years, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it always brings me back. Like there's no world where I won't always be trying to do it, because some people like will be like, oh, like, well, I can go like write novels and do things that are not like collaborative with an artist. But anytime I even think about doing that, I always end up being like, no, I want to do this as a comic book. Like that's what I love. And I love the collaboration of it.
I understand. So give us, the elevator pitch and overview of Artist Immortal.
So Author Immortal came from a lot of different places, and the easy pitch for it right now is basically a failed writer who is a college professor gets the offer of a lifetime to basically reboot his favorite fantasy series from when he was a child. And when he starts working on it, he quickly discovers like, oh, there's actually like a mystery and magic here, and gets pulled into the fantasy world he is sought to revisit, and realizes that it is very different from how he expected it to be. That is like the very top level of it. So
Yeah.
obviously, if you've read the book, there's a lot more going on, but it is again, I love like metafiction. One of my favorite books of all time is The Unwritten by Mike Carey and Peter Gross, which this is very much a love letter to in some ways. But really, when I was conceiving the story, like I wanted to do something in this space, and even Five Ghosts has elements of this, but is much more of an action book. I was a little too shy and new to like really try to go deep into something that I think was a little more literary. And when I really got thinking about this book, I was like, oh, like if I just make one more comic what would I make? And I was like, okay, I really want to revisit this idea I had. Really what you see in the first 5 pages of the book, as I said, this fictional author who basically predates J.R.R. Tolkien, who is the first like true fantasy writer of the modern era. And we show that he's clearly doing something strange. We see a figure that's trapped behind glass and suspended animation. We see him put a blade into his heart and die in the first scene. And that is kind of the plotty genre mystery stuff that drove me. And much more of the character stuff that is very present in the book and a huge driver for it. And a lot about grappling with death of the author, grappling with identity, grappling with a world where we now have to deal with canceled authors who may have created things we really loved. Like that all came later, but was really my way into the book, where I had this plot stuff that I always knew was like cool, but I didn't know how it would be important or really meaningful. And I'm so glad that I didn't try to do the book 5 or 6 years ago before meeting Morgan, because I think Morgan's art is a huge part of the identity of the book. And Morgan Beam is the artist on the book. She does it all watercolor, so she inks traditionally, pencils and inks traditionally, and then watercolors the pages herself as well. So it is a really striking looking book, and just a fantastic artist and now friend. Like she's able to really just do great emotion on the page. Like I don't think I would have the confidence to write such a talky issue 1 if I didn't know Morgan was so capable of portraying acting and getting us to love these characters quickly. And just as I said, endlessly inspiring. So good at creature designs. The book ended up having a lot more of a little bit of like a horror tinge to it, with a lot of fantasy creatures. And not quite a spoiler, but as I said, it is a portal fantasy. Our characters do go through to a fictional world, and we were very cognizant of, we didn't want to just look like one we've seen before. And Morgan has been instrumental in really taking a lot of those tropes and archetypes and revisiting them and making them unique to our property.
So when you were creating the characters, this book, let's take the main character, the canceled author. Was there anybody that, I don't know, and you kind of built it off of, or no? No, hey, well, pick your favorite canceled author these days.
It made me laugh because some people were like, "This isn't subtle," but clearly, like the author who hires our main character Hector is meant to be representative of a lot of people, but the big one is J.K. Rowling, as I think that betrayal and just straight up like heel turn into a truly monstrous person really shook my generation and later, because I missed Harry Potter by a smidge. Like a lot of people my age and older still really like it, but I just didn't get super into it. But it's been around, and it's obviously a huge institution, and grappling with the like wake of the fact that she has revealed herself who she's revealed herself to be. It's something that I think is hugely important to my generation that no one really talks about in fiction. Like again, there's a lot of also just like, let's be fair, just like straight people who don't care, who don't even notice. But like, I feel like anyone who's really grappling with this, I've never seen it really engaged with in work. And that's why for me, it was so important that, as I said, it's not subtle. Like, yeah, we obviously don't want to, like, it's not quote J.K. Rowling, it's influenced by, but the influence is supposed to be that, because I think it's really important that we see characters in the story. Our main character, Hector, is a struggling writer, and he has a non-binary kid named Al, and he basically accepts the job. And in world, our character, Deborah Luckwell is her name, has been canceled for transphobia, and his kid is immediately like, "Dad, are you fucking kidding? Like, really? Like, you're going to work with that? Like, how do you think that makes me feel?" And it's a big part of it, because I know people this has happened to. I know many people in my life, like, who have suffered and forced to be around this, and can feel like you're kind of yelling at a wall and people don't get it. And I think it's bring about also the death of the author of it all. So death of the author being that, hey, like, can we separate work from the writer? Our book is not meant to answer this for anyone. I'm not going to tell you what to do or go burn your books or anything. I mean, I don't think you should put any money in J.K. Rowling's wallet. Let's be real, because we know where that goes now. But
Yeah.
I think grappling with that is what's interesting for me, and doing it in the lens of a fiction that we can see it on many levels. So we have that's pretty front and center just with the characterization, but then also we have this old character who we made up, E.L. Vossler, who is the pre-Tolkien fantasy writer, and his work has kind of fallen out of fashion, and that's what our main character gets hired to reboot. And I think there's just interesting lenses of like how he trapped his own child in the world of his fiction. I mean, you see his daughter literally trapped behind glass, and that echoes our main character Hector with his kid Al. Like, Hector basically named his kid Al after the main character from the story, which I think is endlessly fascinating. Like, I know kids named Hermione and things like that. And just when
Yeah.
your parent kind of like locks you in, I think it's so fascinating that in a perfect world, I think for the parent who does this, they want their kid to grow up and love the thing that they're named after, but that's not always the case. And certainly in our
Yeah.
story, our character Al is fairly resentful about this, even though we don't get too much of it in issue 1, but they are a huge player, and to the point that also they're trying to assert their own identity. They're trying to figure out who they are, and the last thing they want is to have this fucking book character name from their nerd father, and them both getting basically isekai to the fantasy world. There is a I don't know, not that I write to entertain myself, but I thought it was a fun setup to actually deal with the stuff and have a quote adventure as well. And rounding out the cast too is the again, slight spoilers for issue 1, but it's a big part of the story. We have a character who the character who Al was named after, Alethea, who basically was like a little girl mage, but when Hector gets to the world of the story, she has grown up, is now a kind of pretty savage barbarian. And that friction of like, oh my god, like I'm in the world of the story, but it all looks wrong, and why do you look like this is a huge driver that we're pushing forward. So a lot going on. I mean, clearly, our issue 1 is 40 pages, and we're really proud that it's like a very good primer to get you into the story. But it is by design built as an ongoing series. It is.
Yes.
I want to do 60 issues of it. We'll see how far we get, but like that is when I sat down and locked this out. I'm like, if I'm going to do an ongoing, I want to do the proper amount of preparation and world building to make this book have legs, to make it actually have space to grow. And one of the things that burned me out before I went to games was just everything I was doing had to be like a 4 or 5 issue series. And like, there's some joy in that. It can feel like a nice solid piece of entertainment, but it's only about 80 pages or so, like maybe 100 if you get a little generous with your issue 1. And the kind of stories I grew up reading, especially like the early 2000 Vertigo books, like things like The Unwritten, Scalped, Why the Last Man, and Ex Machina, like these books, like I felt like were great because they had space and room to grow. And I feel like you look at something like a little more modern, like There's Something Killing the Children. I think like that book does not rush, which is great. It's got space, and that was what I really wanted to create along with Morgan. We wanted to do something that people could be excited to read every month, and feel like it has a lot of room to spread out. Lock and Key is a huge influence on me as well. It's one of my favorite books of all time, and I think it's really beautifully compartmentalized into the 6 volumes it's in. And again, I was like, let's just swing for the fences. This is maybe. Yeah. I don't want to be dramatic and say it's the last book I'll ever do, but like if it was, I want to go out on a huge like, hey, we tried. And from a just the last thing I'll say on it, from a story level, like I'm really proud that we were able to find the amount of material that could sustain this. So it's not like oh gosh, what are we going to do if we do get to issue 25, issue 40, blah, blah, blah. But by design, like I took a lot of time up front with Morgan and planned out the story and like know where it goes. And again, it was one of those things that we really discovered that I'm clearly very passionate about, that has a lot of real world synergy right now, and really is meant for people like anyone who likes, again, fantasy, character driven stuff, or like Saga and Monstrous are huge comps for us. I know everyone probably says that because they're very popular books, but truly they're books I loved and loved to read as they were coming on the shelves. And that was one of our things. Like we wanted to have something that gave that kind of feeling of monthly reading. And that's at least our goal. So hopefully, hopefully it feels that way to people who pick it up, but I'm super proud of it. And it's one of the, most of my books, I don't feel like bad after the fact or compromised. Like, oh gosh, we should have done this or should have changed. But this is like at this point in my career too, at this point in my growth and journey as a writer, I'm so glad, like I feel prepared to handle the work that's there. Like I'm glad I'm doing it now. Like I said, not 10 years ago, because even then would have been a very different book.
So, has your foray into video games, did that help you, as a writer for comic books, or did your, and I guess vice versa, vice versa, did your experience writing comic books help you in the video game?
Both, which is great. Like, I feel like one thing that I brought immediately to the table working games is because I was a writer who, at like my like peak, I was writing like 3 or 4 monthly series a month. So you have to learn to write fast as a comic book writer. You have to be able to get your work out and deal with the fact like, hey, you're not going to maybe do a lot of revisions. And I think a lot of people who have gone only directly into games like are a little more precious because they ship a game every 3 to 5 years. They don't get that constant turnaround. And just a lot of iteration because things change. But then conversely, getting a lot more feedback from my team, like working with like narrative directors who would talk through and like actually give me notes, and then getting to record spoken dialogue has made me so much better at writing dialogue. It was a weak point coming right into comics for me. And I always joke because with Five Ghosts, people were like, oh, the dialogue's like pulpy. It's supposed to be like that. I'm like, no, I'm also just a new writer and bad at writing dialogue. So meet you in the middle. But truly, like, that has been immense in my growth. And as just being more collaborative. We have a fantastic editor named Arden Ripley on the book with us. And they do pretty intense story editing with me. Like, we'll talk through a script completely. They'll give feedback and we'll look granular at dialogue. And that is a process I've come to really enjoy more from games because I've never really worked with editors on my own stuff. Not out of hubris, but just because I didn't really see the use. And now I really just see the like, oh, having like someone I trust to kind of, one, idiot check me, and two, be additive and help challenge me on stuff or make things better. Like, I think I've really learned to like relish that process, even though we do it much faster in comics because we are a monthly series. Still, to take some of that infrastructure, which I had a lot more in games, has been really useful for me.
So, kind of jumping off the theme of the book, with the guy, rebooting, a well-beloved series. If you had the opportunity to do that, what would there be a book series that you would want to?
Oh gosh, that's a good question, but maybe I'm just a narcissist. But like, I'm the kind of person where I love making my own stuff. It's why I've
Mhm.
been very fortunate to do a lot of my own creator-owned series, and it's the kind of thing where when I read something I really love or see something I like, it makes me inspired to want to like make something to match that, not necessarily
Yeah.
do that thing. And I like doing work for hire, like in general. Like, I've enjoyed all the work for hire I've done. It is a fun, very different beast, like kind of finding your way in. But I don't have anything like bucket listy. Well, let me actually think about it for a second. I mean, uh, it's funny because like it's a comic, but like I love Crimson by Humberto Ramos and Brian Augustine. And like for so much of my youth, I'm like, I want to write a screenplay of this like so badly. Like, this could be an awesome movie. I never did that. I think I might have emailed Humberto Ramos when I was like 20 years old, being like, hey man, can I like write a screenplay of this? He did not respond, and that's fine. But yeah, that nothing really like front of mind. I'm just very much, as I said, it's like when I get inspired by stuff I like, it makes me want to almost like generate my own thing and kind of try to pull that influence in. I'm trying, because I was much more. I read comics as a kid, but I wasn't a huge reader. I really didn't even start reading fantasy till like probably 5 or 6 years ago as well. Like I had like seen Lord of the Rings and stuff, but that wasn't the kind of fantasy I love. Like I really like Joe Abercrombie. Like, I like Brandon Sanderson. I started reading Terry Gilliam, who I really enjoy. And not Terry Gilliam, Jesus Christ. Terry Gilliam is the filmmaker. Like, what's Terry Pratchett? Forgive me. But then I recently actually started reading like a Warhammer 40K book for the first time too. So I went to school for English, so I was forced to read like smart kid English books all the time, and had like a phase out of college that if I was reading a novel, I would only read like very difficult postmodern literature or something that I thought I had to. And then finally, I can remember what I read. I think I read a Stephen King book for the first time. I was like, oh, like I can just read like fun books that are cool. And it took me a while to get there. But there's nothing. I much more loved like video games or comics when I was a kid. I will say like Final Fantasy games and Chrono Trigger is my favorite game of all time. Like that is the stuff that almost I say made me want to be more of a writer than say any specific book I read as a kid. Which, hey, it's the truth. Like I won't like lie about that. But
Mhm. So you said that author Immortal is ongoing. A nice 60 issue run could. So you do have an end in mind. I I take it.
yes, I'm a very I don't want to say meticulous because that's too grandiose sounding, but like I'm a very structure focused writer and believe for the most part that you need to know the ending of your book to have meaningful progress. So really like and for this book especially, I feel like we landed on such salient themes and like a really like big controlling idea around kind of death of the author and what fiction is kind of for that it was a joy to early on build like, hey, I know how we will express this in a climax. Like the end will be the ultimate realization of this. And it's been very fun to kind of work backwards from that and think about how we get there. And yeah, it'll continue to change as we continue the book. But I think the physical, like big finale stuff is pretty locked in because I know where we want to get to.
Now, is it different writing this type of book than it is, say, a superhero book for you?
Uh Interestingly, like no, because my process is the same. Like there's a little more room because I can like break my own toys. Like I can't kill Iron Man in an issue. I mean, maybe they'll let you, but you know what I mean. It's like I feel like
He'll
I can
get
do a
better.
little. Yeah, yeah. He'll be back. Don't worry. Yeah, but I feel like many comic book writers have said it. I think John Hickman said it on his Fantastic Four run, which I love, 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 love. Where spoilers for that run, but Human Torch dies in it, and he comes back to life clearly as he's in the comic. But John like put it really nicely, like, hey, when you're writing comics, you're writing in this perpetual like act two. Like you're not really telling the first story, you're not telling the final story, but you should still go for it and still do big things because in the moment it will still matter. And uh, not as a counterpart to myself, but with my own stuff, I can have a little more finality and a little more surprise of what we're gonna do. But as I said, the process is generally the same for me. I will say I'm not desperately trying to get back at DC or Marvel these days, but there is a part of me that would love to do like a longer run on a DC or Marvel character and really kind of go for it as gosh, I think Howling Commandos was the longest thing we did and it was only 7 issues and I think or 6 issues, I can't remember. And the last issue was like a crossover issue anyway, so it wasn't even really pushing it out, but I had built an outline for that book to go very long, so it was very sad to get canceled so quickly, but such is the nature of many books. I mean, especially now, it is the main gripe I have with the direct market that stuff just moves so fast and doesn't even get a chance to like find an audience and breathe. And I understand why. I don't begrudge anyone over that, but it is shitty as a writer when you want to tell bigger stories. And as I said, the things that made me love comics were these very long runs on books, like where stuff ebbed and flowed and changed, and you saw a lot of progress. And I would love for us as a market to get back to that. Can we? I hope so, but we'll
Yeah.
see. I mean, it is a difficult question of logistics and kind of the market, not just creativity. So every writer wants to do that. I don't think I'm alone in saying that. I'd love to have long runs on books, but I feel like people have done really nice stuff in like excuse me, but like kind of smaller maxi series, like 10, 12 issue runs. We've seen a lot of those over the last few years. I think have been really monumental. I mean, I think Tom King has been fantastic with his work. It's been really inspirational to see. Because I remember he did Vision in the Marvel launch that I was in Commandos with, and I remember we were at lunch at San Diego Comic-Con. I was like, "Yo, what are you doing with Vision?" And he told me, and I was like, "Good luck." Like, I don't know if anyone's gonna like that. And then when the first issue came out, I emailed him. I'm like, "Tom, this was one of the best comics I ever read. Like, way to go!" And I think he's done okay since. So,
As I know, as you said, you like doing your own creative stuff. But are there any other um, properties in somebody else's sandbox that you haven't got to play with that you would.
Yeah, I feel like I was much more of a Marvel reader my whole life, like other than like Batman and Superman, and I don't know, like I've learned a lot about like weird DC stuff just from being a fan over the years, and a lot of my friends who write many of the books. But again, the big Marvel ones, like I would love to write a Spider-Man thing, like just to get to that character. I feel like even Deadpool, because that Joe Kelly Deadpool was so good. Like I feel like he found the perfect balance of actual like interesting plot stuff and Deadpool being funny before he got super meta. Like, and they started doing the
Yeah,
different caption boxes. And Batman, of course, like, but for me, like my process is just like a lot more of like making sure I can find something interesting to bring to it. Like if I'm doing any work for hire stuff, I feel like this might segue to SWAT cats nicely. Like I always want to try to find something that at least is an idea I care about and like has like a little bit more thematic punch than just like what I will describe not overly pejoratively as, but like Saturday morning cartoon. Like, a Saturday morning cartoon back in the day, there's going to be a bad guy. The heroes are going to fight it. They're going to beat them. Everyone's going to go home. Like we did it. Like, hooray. And I think modern readers like want much more than that. They don't want to just
right.
see, again, they don't want to see Spider-Man fight Venom for 10 pages. He beats Venom, goes home, and is like, man, being Spider-Man rules. Good night. And that's it. And
They want to see character development, see the characters grow, struggle. Like,
and for me, it's more of just like, and I learned this quickly at Marvel. I guess I did a good chunk of Avengers World. I guess maybe it was actually only one trade, but I got to write into to John's run, and I work with Jonathan Hickman and Nick Spencer at Three Worlds, Three Moons as well, which has been really fun. I do some digital stuff, but I've worked with them for a while and gotten to know both of them. And again, Jonathan is one of my favorite writers. I love Nick's work as well. And getting to write into that was great because I was reading the run, and the first thing I wrote at Marvel was the New Avengers Annual in 2014, I want to say, and it was a Doctor Strange one shot that Marco Rudy painted, and it is like one of my favorite comics I wrote. And it was really, that's when it clicked for me, like, oh wait, like you can do so much more here because the audience is already bought in. Like they're going to show up, so I can think about like not just fighting villain of the week, but like, oh, thematically, like, what do I want to talk about? Like, this is an issue about like loss and about how someone will have the hubris to go too far, even when they know they shouldn't. And just grappling with stuff like that, that's a little more interesting without, obviously, you don't want to turn it into like a treatise or like too like a preachy piece of content. But I think that's where the fun with a lot of those characters are. And at least the writers who I think really take us to new places, they can use that character IP as a vehicle to express something new or express something interesting. It's not like you have to reinvent the wheel every time. And I think that's the joy. And why, as I said, like with any work for hire gig I get, I try to take a minute to think about like, hey, like what is cool here that interests me that I can be compelled by to try to like push into maybe a new place.
so let's take that and segue into SWAT cats because I mean I'm I'm a little older than you are, so that was kind of after my time. So
Okay. Yeah.
I I, I don't have.
Yeah, you're
I
not huge fondness. Yeah, yeah.
I see the the buzz that the Kickstarter has garnered, and it's like I even this evening I watched some clips of the show. It's like okay,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I get it. So tell us, I guess your history with SWAT cats and the project itself.
So it was weirdly right in my strike zone. So I don't even remember. It was early '90s, but and I know if you watched clips, like I rewatched all the show. There were only 2 seasons and they were short. I can't remember if
Mhm.
there were 20 episodes or what. We literally would just talk about this with the creators, and I forget. But I watched all of it, and it does hold up. Like obviously, it is a '90s action cartoon, so it's that done in one villain of the week, but the animation was actually really good and the art style was fantastic. Like I think like, and obviously the opening is fun with like the crazy like theme song metal riff, like 80s metal sounding music that people love. But it was just like kind of a little more like I think not gritty, but like again, they're flying a jet and shooting missiles and blowing stuff up, and more kind of like almost vigilante than like say the Ninja Turtles, who in the show at least were a little more like cartoony and fun. So I think that really struck a chord with like some 90s edge. But again, it wasn't over the top. It was still like kind of an all ages show. And really what struck me too is it had a lot of like really fun villain designs. And I just did a podcast with the creators, and they had said they had loved like Batman's rogues gallery, like some of the characters that had just constantly interesting characters. So that was a real draw for them to try to make up constant cool villains and have them. And with the project, it was a very random thing, as the artist working on it, Jorge Corona, who is amazing, is actually also Morgan, who works on Author Immortal's husband. They don't keep that super secret, but it's not obviously you wouldn't know. But so they are related, and Kevin Rotatelli of Rotelli Productions, who put the whole operation together, brought Jorge on, which was a fantastic get. Jorge has been killing out Transformers, fantastic artist, and I think was a really smart like pairing, because if you go look at the Kickstarter and see the pages, Jorge is drawing the heck out of it. It's looks awesome. But Kevin wanted to bring on a writer. He was like, Jorge, is there anyone you want to work with? And I've gotten to know Jorge through working with Morgan. He's like, oh, I would love to work with Frank. So Kevin emailed me. He's like, hey, would you pitch on this? And as I said, I immediately rewatched all of SWAT Cats and thought about like, oh, like what could be cool here? Because we didn't want to just do something that feels like a rehashed episode of the show or something like throwaway. And the original creators of the show, the Tremblay brothers, Christian and Yvonne, are heavily involved, and we had to pitch it to them, which was great because one, like, if they're almost like that first litmus test, because there is a big fandom, as we've discovered with the Kickstarter. If Christian and Yvonne are on board, I know that's at least meeting their vision and holding true to the show. And with that knowledge, I was like, well, hey, how about we do something that's new, like that takes place after the ending of the show, pushes it a little further, and really is like a kind of dramatic, like new opening and new era. And if you see the pages, we have the city the SWAT Cats are from, Mega Cat City. Literally, you see it on fire, being attacked, and the SWAT Cats in a really desperate situation on those opening pages. And I am so glad they let us do this, because we wanted to honor what's there, but as I said, do something new. And it's not quite to the severity of something like Last Ronin, like where the tone has gotten very dark. But looking at the success of that with Ninja Turtles, like that's why I was like, hey, we want to push this forward. And Jorge is a tremendous talent. He draws with some grit and I think some energy that the show kind of vibed with but didn't quite have. So I want to make sure that we are writing something that Jorge would really deliver on. And for me, just telling like a good, just like it is a 40-page issue that we're kickstartering, and it is meant to kick off a new little era, like mini arc of new books, but it is a self-contained story, but it kind of puts all the characters and pieces into new places. And that was really fun to write, because we came up with this kind of cool, exciting new context. We see the SWAT Cat's a little bit in crisis, and there's I don't want to talk about what's actually in the book because people will find it and leak it, but it is coming into it with an energy of kind of like rebuilding, getting up to speed, and taking everything that people love about it and kind of putting it into a new context for also new readers. I think it is extremely accessible, like that if you didn't have like SWAT Cats nostalgia and either just like Jorge or think it looks cool, like you will be able to read this and get it. It's not going to be so so lore dependent that you won't know, but it is a cool entry point that I don't know, you might go back and watch SWAT Cats and be like, whoa, the show was amazing, and and become a retroactive fan. And it's really been a lot of fun. And as I said, like IP, like you never know how it's going to end up. But once I knew Jorge was involved, I was extremely interested, because I've always wanted to work with him. And we also have Sarah Stern coloring it, who had worked with Jorge a bit. They'd done a cover for Author Immortal, and I think he colored Batgirls with her, and or she colored Batgirls with Jorge. And if you see the Kickstarter pages, have done beautiful work, and I'm just excited to get the rest of it out. And also just, it's a great Kickstarter. Like they're doing like a little hardcover of it. They're actually doing an artist edition if you just want to see Jorge's art big, which is a really cool uh, reward. Lots of cool variants. There's actually 2 variants by Neil Adams that his estate let us use, which was fantastic, which the creators of SWAT Cats had commissioned from him back in the early
Okay.
90s. So yeah, but they're beautiful pieces, and it's awesome to actually get to see them on comic books now instead of just in a vault somewhere. And as I said, Kevin has done a great job putting the Kickstarter together, and also co-wrote it with me as well. So it's not just me. I worked with Kevin on the script, which has been fun to. He definitely, I think, got a lot smarter on SWAT Cats than I did, and was my source of asking lore questions as we discover it together. But yeah, it's been fun. We were literally just going over a lot of stuff from it this morning, and it it just looks crazy. I can't believe it looks as good as it does, and I think that speaks to why it's found the amount of success it's found already on Kickstarter as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you surprised by the reaction that the Kickstarter has garnered?
I
Because it's
I knew
well, it's the fund. It's way above its funding.
Yeah, I think the target was 40 and we're currently at like 370,000, which is I when we started working on it and I like kind of like, oh, it's at 381 right now. Geez, yeah, that's fantastic. There I immediately, like, when I saw like some of the communities online and like we met people at Comic-Con, like I saw there was a pretty active fan base, and wasn't really surprised. Well, maybe a little surprising because like it's been 30 years. Like, and a lot of people who are actually younger have discovered it too. I think the internet is just fascinating like that, right? Like people can discover old stuff because it's out there. But I also do really believe that nostalgia is a heck of a drug, and I knew that people would kind of come out strong. And I again, I think that number doesn't really make sense to me, but I knew people were going to be excited. And then also when I saw the quality of the book, I was like, oh wow. And just Jorge has been having a great time in his career coming off Transformers. I knew it was kind of the right team to make it happen now. So in that way, like, even though the number might be higher than I would have thought, like I knew there would be kind of good energy around it and people would be excited.
Yeah, just when you said it was the 30th anniversary, that helped just to put things in perspective. I was finishing up high school then, so
Okay, yeah. So you just missed it.
yeah. So that's but I do remember seeing probably repeats here and there of it because when I was in college, I'd watch a lot of you know I think it was it on Cartoon Network?
It was like it was a Hanna Barbera
Okay.
joint for Cartoon Network. Yeah.
Yeah, I did watch a lot of Cartoon Network, and I'm sure I flipped through it a couple times after you know uh, my Cartoon Network watching in uh, college was mainly uh, rewatching the Thundercats every day before it
Oh
was time to
yeah,
go to the dinner,
yeah.
the
That's what that
tsunami or
was.
whatever.
Yeah. That was for me too. Because again, I was a little too young to have missed it in the '80s. But when everything was on Toonami again in the '90s, is when I saw Thundercats, when I saw Voltron, when I saw Gundam Wing, like that's the big like in Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is one of my favorite properties of all time, and I had actually seen Dragon Ball when they were airing it on Saturday mornings with Sailor Moon. Like that was the first time I encountered it, but I was glad that it came onto Toonami in a big way as well.
I didn't start watching Dragon Ball until was I was in grad school when I started watching it, and I was home because I had just had back surgery. So
Oh, wow. He needed something
every
to.
day I needed, and then just taking a whole week of shows just to get through like it got a little
Guys yelling, it's like, okay, when are we going to fight?
yeah five two shows that didn't just like staring at each other and sweat coming down it but um so do you have a favorite SWAT Cats character that you enjoy writing or
That's well, we've gotten to touch a lot of the cast, which is great. And I feel like Jorge has surprised me with how like villainous he had made the 2 villains we have. It's not a secret as they're on the cover. It's Dark Cat, who's kind of like their more traditional big bad, like man in the shadows, evil character, and then Hard Drive, who is like a techie, like electricity character who we wrote more like Electro, which was fun. And I feel like you see him in the preview pages, like floating. And Jorge did an awesome job with his design. And it was, and also as dumb as it sounds, like just the plane, the Turbo Cat, like a big part of the show is just their mechanics, and they use very physical, like not engineering, but like just like tinkering and building. And the big thing is that they have like cool specialty missiles, and it was really fun to work with the Tremblay brothers who invented it and get some new designs from them, and like nerd out kind of on like doing some of the gadget stuff, and in writing just a really cool like jet-based action sequence at the end of the issue. It closes with a big fight in the Turbo Cat, and that was, I don't think I've ever written like vehicular combat, if that makes sense. And it's definitely a way to think about. And it was very fascinating because, like, you see on the preview pages on the exploring thing, they're fighting these giant like striders that have like giant cat heads that are like robotic striders, and that came to me like pretty quickly because we were thinking about like scale, like, oh, what could be cool in the city to fight. And when talking to the Tremblay brothers, they were like, yeah, that was always the problem for us. Because they were in a plane fighting in the city, we always needed something like giant for them to fight, because there was a question of scale. Like, they're not going to shoot at people on the floor with their plane. Like, that's not exciting. So there always was a bit of an element of like, what could be a big enough threat to the city. And again, there's like fun terrestrial stuff like on the ground too. And Dark Cat is not a giant enemy, but it's really been fun to also, we were talking about this the other day, so it's not much of a spoiler. Like, while the SWAT cats themselves are like mechanics and very like grounded with their technology, again, a lot of just like physical, practical tools, we have placed the book in the modern era. Like, they have cell phones, and there's like an internet and other technology we put in, which was really fun to kind of update some elements of the world like that. And to the plot is very much based around that as well. So it is about the fact that time has passed and there's been progression, and keeping true and having the Tremblays of our guide to keep T-Bone and Razor, who are the SWAT cats, very much grounded in their techie, or not techie, but more mechanical endeavors, has been fun with that as well.
Do they like to watch videos of humans? You know how
this is what I joked about with Jorge, because he loves the Cats movie, unironically. Cats 2019, and I was like, Jorge, they could be watching humans in the show. He's like, that's such a good idea. I don't know if we'll get that in there, if that's part of the lore, but it did pass my mind.
Yeah.
So we'll see. To be determined. We could change the canon forever if that goes through. Don't worry, SWAT Cat fans, we're not doing that. But
Now, is this going to be multiple issues that are kickstarted, or is it
I don't know.
Are you hoping to get it to?
I don't know what Kevin's longer term plan. We want to do more. Obviously, it's meant to kick off at least a smaller arc of issues. I know he has a lot of plans, but I can't speak to that. But I think like keep your eyes peeled is all I can say. But as of now, the Kickstarter is just for the first issue of the series, which, as I said, is a 40-page, nice, chunky, done in one. And like with Kickstarters, as I said, what's nice is regardless of what we may publish later, this is like we made the little special little thin hardcover that actually isn't too thin. It'll have the script in there, some bonus stories now that we've hit the reward tiers to have stretch goals. And I think one of the extra stories that's going to be in there is like a cartoon they watch in SWAT Cats, so that the two characters watch themselves. So I think that's going to be really fun to have in there as well. That doing a short story. I can't remember what it is called. Forgive me if anyone is watching this and loves the SWAT Cats. I need to look at, because I honestly didn't know what it was till Kevin and the Tremblays told me about it. I'm like, oh, awesome. Like, we'll find out. So we're going to have a Callie and Felina short story, which again will be a tying into the main story, and then also a Cat Commando short story. That's what the show the SWAT Cats watched in universe. So that'll be fun. Yeah. It is, again, if you are a fan, this is really going to be a great time.
So I know we talked briefly at New York Comic Con. How was the show for you? Were you? I mean, every
It
time
was
I
great.
tried to come stop by and say hi, and he always had somebody there.
It was great to do a show. It's been like 5 or 6 years since I've done a con, so I feel like it was nice to one, just connect with people I've not seen in person in so long, and two, just be present. Like a lot of people had older work that they had wanted to get signed that I hadn't been at, and I was supposed to go last year, but our cat got sick right when it was time to go, and again, he got sick when I came home again. So this must be his time of year to get sick. But luckily, he saved it till after the con.
Just like my son, I left. I get a call Friday at morning, and while I'm to chill, going, our son is sick, and he's going to be staying home from school today. It's like,
Oh man,
and every
it's like
time
you
I
get
go out of town for something, he always gets sick.
you can never plan, right? And that's why I feel bad. So many of my friends who have kids, and I'm like, my cat, and they're like, my human child is sick. I'm like, okay, sorry, like,
Yeah.
but no, it was a great show, and I really enjoyed it. I love New York Con. I used to live in New York, and it's my favorite city, so it's a very uh like hometown show for me. And I really enjoy the way they run it too, how they separate the artist alley into kind of that auxiliary hall. So it feels almost just like that's the small comic show. And then if you want to see like the bigger comic show, that's in the main hall.
Am I correct that you did a show up here in Albany few years ago?
I did because I lived in Albany when I first started working in game dev. So I did the Albany Comic Con.
Okay, I'm up in Albany. I live in Albany, and
Okay, yeah,
I think we met there, and so that
yeah,
was,
because
but that was years ago.
it's funny because it seems like not too long ago, but yeah, probably almost 10 years ago at this point, because it was probably around 2016 that I was up there, or maybe 2017. But yeah, but no, that's a great show too, because they do that. That's a yearly show they do. Yeah,
Hmm. Well,
because
actually, it's twice a year.
oh, twice. Well, I know Steve Orlando is a dear friend of mine, and he's the one who actually like got me up to Albany. And then I know Ron Mars well, being up there, and like Paul Harding, the sculptor who does a lot of their shows. And it's
Yep.
always great to see everyone. I was just at Steve's wedding up there, and it was nice to be
Yeah.
back in the area.
Yeah. It was nice to see Steve and get to congratulate him at on his nuptials at New York. So
Yeah, no, oh man, yeah, he was staying with us in our room, so it's funny because I didn't see much of him at the show, but we hung out outside of it, and he is my dear friend. He is just like I met him very early on when we were both breaking in. Like I had done Five Ghosts, I guess a year later he did Undertow at Image, and I remember he had
yeah,
like asked on Twitter like, "Hey, how like does like getting our ad placement in Image Comics work?" And I said like DM'd him, and I was like, "Hey man, like this is how you kind of set it up, because again, I love working at Image, but you do a lot yourself as the creator. Like they have more infrastructure now, but I think back then too, it was
yeah,
kind of like you made an ad and sent it to them, or they would just do like a text ad." And we immediately became friends from there on, and it was crazy to watch. Like I remember when he was like pitching Midnighter, and when he was like, "Oh, I think I might get exclusive at DC," and stuff like that. And it's been very cool to watch his career as well. And we actually co-wrote
definitely.
the Martian Manhunter, Marvin the Martian one shot in that DC Looney Tunes bit, which was a very fun gig.
Yeah. Yeah. There's I'm a transplant up here. I've been up in the Albany area for 19 years, and but
Oh well.
um, I you know as I become more involved with the comic book community up here. There's a lot of it's a very creator friendly, and there's a lot of creators here, and so
No, for sure. It was fun to be a part of it when we were there for 2 years.
so looking at your career, is there something that you know now that you wish you knew at the beginning of your career that you would, if you could, tell your younger self?
That is a great question. I'm going to think about it for a second. Well, very immediately, like as I said, I was very fortunate to come into Image in 2013 when stuff was like really going crazy, and just like the numbers we got on Five Ghosts, like I will never be able to recreate. So like but I feel learned very quickly because I started doing books other places and not everything sold as well. So but really just to know like that, like it is a long complicated ride, and being a freelancer is hard, and you always have to kind of sleep with one eye open in a way to kind of keep a focus to where you want to be. But also, just like, again, I'm a pretty optimistic, positive person, and just like opportunity is there if you're prepared and like ready to kind of work and look for it. And again, thankfully, I don't like really regret anything, but just like the one thing I do regret, and it's not just on me and not blaming the other members of the team, I wish we had done more Five Ghosts. Like, we just though hit a place where we were all really burned out on it. The book was not selling month to month, so we weren't making money immediately, but I wish we had kind of overcome that hump and like gotten to like issue 50 or things like that. But again, hopefully we'll do some more soon. It's always been something that Chris and I and Lauren really want to do. But it's, as I said, it's been that ships in the night situation where when I'm ready, someone else isn't ready or things like that. But I'm hoping in the winter we might actually just kind of lock down and do some new Five Ghost stuff to have hopefully in 2026. So
Very nice. So, as we kind of wrap up here, because our hour is almost up, do you want to, give us a pitch for um, Author Immortal and the Kickstarter,
yeah, for
and
sure.
where people can find you if you're on social media?
So socials, I'm active on Blue Sky and Instagram. I'm FJ Barb on both. FJBARB, Frank Joseph Barbiere, FJ Barb. That's where that comes from. It's a terrible user handle, but it's the one I chose and stick with. So yeah, I typically update both pretty actively. With Author Immortal, I'd love people to read the book monthly. Issue 2 comes out next week. There's still plenty of issue 1s out there. It is a book, as I've said, we want to do for 60 issues. We want to stick around. We can use anyone who wants to read it month to month. It is, the monthly sales are our lifeblood. We're really going to push the trades to be nice as well, but we're also trying to make the book to reward monthly readers and feel like not just it's written for the trade. Like, we want people to be excited every issue. And we actually have a bonus story starting in issue 2 that kind of explores more of the in-universe story world, drawn by one of my dear friends, Kate Kaysnow, and colored by Lauren Affey, in addition to the stuff by Morgan as well in the main book. So we're always trying to maximize where we can with our page count and get cool stuff in there. So you're not going to, I mean, apologies if we eventually do an ad at some point, but I don't want to just run ads in my books. I like to use every page I can to really make something cool and collectible, and just some really cool variants coming up too. We really only stick to A/B covers now. We did the Young Blood cover for issue 2, which came out fantastic. Jim Toe and JP Jordan did it. Did not expect us to do a Young Blood cover, but here we are. But yeah, and again, it's a book we deeply care about, and we think a lot of people will enjoy if they find it. And then Swat Cats, the Kickstarter is live now and will be for 20 something more days, 22 days. So please, there is, even if you just want to read a digital version of the comic, there's a very cheap tier. There's some really fancy stuff that you can get if you are a fan and really want to treat yourself. But it is live now, and the book will come out pretty quickly afterwards. I don't know about some of the like reward production, but it is not one of these Kickstarters where we're like, oh, we're going to draw it in 10 years from now. Jorge is one of the hardest working artists I know. He's already getting the book done. So we will be good to go.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat. I'm glad we were able to reschedule this, and
Thank you so much for having me. Please
I
know
apologize for last August.
No, listen, life is hard enough, and I'm always honored to be anywhere. So thank you for initially trying while you were camping. That was very ambitious, but we got here.
Well, let's keep in touch, and whenever you have something else that you would like to, talk about, you're more than welcome back, and we will continue to follow SWAT Cats over on our weekly crowdfunding roundup.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's cool to see. No, and anytime.
And
So appreciated.
yep. And as my co-host likes to say, and can say a lot better than I can, the world these days can be a terrible place, but we can always, do something to make it better. By, support local artists, support local shops, and just do something nice for someone. And overall, just don't be a dick.